Ethan never believed in luck, only in hard work, busted knuckles, and long nights fixing engines that weren't his own. But tonight felt different. He'd spent weeks saving for this dinner, even borrowed a clean shirt from his neighbor. A blind date, something new, something hopeful. The restaurant was fancier than any place he'd ever been. Nervous but determined, he scanned the room, spotted a woman sitting alone by the window, and approached her table with a shy smile. "Hi, I'm Ethan," he said, his voice trembling slightly. The woman looked up, beautiful, elegant, and surprised, but after a pause she smiled softly. "Hello, Ethan," she replied. He didn't know it yet, but he'd just sat at the wrong table. And that mistake would lead him to the CEO's paralyzed daughter, and the moment that would change both their lives forever. Ethan wiped his palms on his jeans for the 5th time, trying to calm the nervous flutter in his chest. He'd spent the entire afternoon scrubbing his hands, but faint grease stains still clung stubbornly to his skin, a mechanic's mark that soap couldn't wash away. The restaurant felt like another world. Crystal glasses, soft jazz, people dressed like magazine covers. It was everything his small-town life wasn't. He had no business being there, yet he was. For once, he wanted to believe he could be more than the guy who fixed other people's cars. Maybe, just maybe, he could be someone's reason to smile. Scanning the room, Ethan spotted her, alone at a corner table by the window, her long hair glowing under the golden lights. She looked exactly how he imagined his blind date would be, graceful, a little nervous, checking her phone. His heart pounded as he walked over, each step echoing louder in his ears. "Hi," he said with a hopeful smile, pulling out the chair. "I'm Ethan." The woman looked up, surprised for a moment. Then, after the briefest hesitation, she smiled softly. "Well, hello, Ethan." Her voice was calm, gentle, like music. Ethan sat, grateful she hadn't noticed how out of place he was. The conversation began awkwardly. He talked about fixing cars, about long days at the garage, and how he loved the sound of an engine finally running right after hours of work. She listened with interest, her blue eyes curious, warm. For a while, he forgot about his nerves, forgot about the polished men in suits around them. He only saw her. Her laughter was soft, genuine, and it made him feel, just for a second, like he belonged there. But something about her posture caught his attention. She never shifted in her seat, her legs still, her hands resting neatly on her lap. When the waiter came to refill her glass, Ethan noticed a glint of metal beneath the table, a wheelchair handle. He looked away quickly, pretending not to notice, his chest tightening. He didn't want her to think he pitied her. Instead, he smiled and said, "You have the kind of smile that makes people forget everything wrong with their day." She looked at him for a long moment before replying softly, "Then maybe tonight I needed to sit at the wrong table." Ethan didn't realize it yet, but neither of them were there by accident. The waiter had barely left when Lily leaned forward slightly, her eyes curious. "So, Ethan, you fix cars for a living?" Ethan nodded, embarrassed yet proud. "Yeah, small garage down on Maple Street. It's nothing fancy, but it keeps the lights on. I help folks who can't afford dealership prices. Sometimes, I don't even charge if they're struggling." Her eyebrows lifted. "You mean you fix cars for free?" He shrugged, trying to play it off. "Can't let a single mom drive around on bald tires, right? Or a kid miss school because their mom's old Honda won't start." Lily smiled softly, resting her chin on her hand. "You talk about it like you love it." "I do," he said simply. "Engines make sense. You put in the effort, they respond. People, not always the same." She laughed, a real melodic laugh that turned a few heads nearby. It was the first time in months she'd laughed without forcing it. Ethan didn't know it, but laughter had been a stranger to her ever since the accident that had taken away her ability to walk. "So what about you?" he asked, sipping his water. "What do you do?" Lily hesitated. Few people ever asked without knowing who she was. Most knew her as the CEO's daughter, not as a person. But Ethan looked at her like she was just someone worth listening to. "I used to love hiking," she said after a pause. "Mountains, trails, the wind. It made me feel alive. But after an accident, I had to stop." Ethan's brow furrowed. "That sounds tough." "I'm sorry," she smiled faintly. "It's okay. I'm learning that life doesn't stop moving just because I do." He nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe one day you'll hike again, just differently. The world doesn't take your spirit unless you let it." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. No pity, no awkward silence. Just belief. Real belief. As they talked, time slipped away. The noise of the restaurant faded, replaced by the quiet rhythm of two souls finding an unexpected connection. Ethan told her about his childhood, how his father taught him to fix engines with nothing but patience and grit. Lily shared stories about painting, her therapy sessions, and how the sky always seemed bluer after rain. When the waiter cleared the plates, neither of them moved to leave. Ethan smiled. "You know, for a blind date, this isn't so bad." Lily tilted her head, her eyes glimmering. "No, Ethan, it's not bad at all." For the first time in a long while, she felt like herself again. Not someone broken, not someone defined by her chair. Just Lily, and that was everything. The evening had slipped into something warm and effortless. Ethan couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed so easily, or listened so deeply. The candle between them flickered, casting soft shadows over Lily's face. Her smile was calm, confident, alive. He thought to himself, This feels right." But just as the waiter placed their dessert on the table, a slice of chocolate cake they decided to share, the spell broke. "Lily!" The voice came sharp, commanding, and out of place amid the quiet hum of the restaurant. Ethan turned, startled. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a tailored gray suit was striding toward them, his expression thunderous. Heads turned as whispers spread across the room. Lily froze, color draining from her face. "Dad," she whispered under her breath. Ethan blinked. "Dad?" Mr. Turner, the CEO of Turner Automotive, one of the biggest car companies in the state, stopped at their table. His gaze flicked from Lily to Ethan, narrowing with suspicion. "Who is this man? Why are you here with him?" Lily stammered. "He thought I was his date, Dad. I didn't stop him." The room seemed to shrink around Ethan. His heart sank as realization crashed over him like cold water. His real date, whoever she was, must have been waiting at another table. He'd sat with the wrong woman the entire time. He stood up quickly, knocking his knee on the table. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I must have made a mistake." "Clearly," Mr. Turner said, his tone sharp. "This restaurant isn't exactly your usual scene, is it?" His eyes flicked to Ethan's calloused hands, the faint stains that soap couldn't hide. Lily's voice wavered. "Dad, please don't." Ethan's throat tightened. He didn't belong here. Not in this world of luxury and power. He reached for his jacket, but before he could step away, Lily's hand gently touched his. "Please," she said softly, looking up at him. "Stay." The word was fragile but full of meaning. In that single moment, Ethan saw something in her eyes. Loneliness, exhaustion, the longing to be treated like anyone else. Mr. Turner frowned. "Lily," but she interrupted, her voice firmer now. "For once, can I just talk to someone who doesn't see my last name first?" The silence that followed was heavy, but Ethan stayed. Not out of pride, not out of defiance, but because leaving felt wrong. He didn't know it then, but that decision, to stay when everything told him to walk away, would change both their lives forever. 3 days had passed since that awkward, unforgettable dinner. Ethan couldn't stop replaying it in his head. The laughter, the connection, and then the embarrassment that followed. He'd sat at the wrong table, talked to the wrong woman, and somehow felt right for the first time in years. He convinced himself it was over. She was the daughter of a powerful CEO. He was just a grease-stained mechanic with dreams too small for her world. That morning, he was under the hood of an old pickup when a shadow fell across the garage floor. "You really do fix everything yourself, don't you?" a familiar voice said. He straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag, and froze. "Lily?" She smiled, sitting in her wheelchair at the edge of his workshop, sunlight catching her hair. "You didn't think I'd let you vanish that easily, did you?" Ethan blinked, still stunned. "I figured your dad would have my name on a do-not-contact list by now." Lily chuckled. He tried. "I told him I make my own lists." She looked around the small garage, the organized chaos of tools, tires, and the smell of oil and dust. "This place suits you," she said softly. "It's real," he shrugged. "It's home." Lily leaned forward, her eyes shining. "You know, when you talked about helping people who can't afford repairs, I kept thinking about how you fix things others give up on." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's what I do." "Well," she said, "then maybe you can help fix me too." "Not my legs, my courage." That caught him off guard. "Your courage?" "I used to love driving," she admitted. "Since the accident, I haven't touched a steering wheel. My dad doesn't think I can handle it. But I think Maybe I just need someone who believes I can." Ethan's voice softened. "Then I'm your guy." From that day on, Ethan became more than a mechanic. He became her friend, her encourager, her partner in rediscovery. He built her a custom car with hand controls, spending hours making sure it was perfect. He picked her up for therapy, cheered her on when she stumbled, and never once treated her like she was fragile. Their bond grew quietly but powerfully. Ethan's selflessness reignited Lily's will to fight. And Lily's belief reminded Ethan that his worth wasn't measured in money, but in heart. In helping her rebuild her confidence, Ethan unknowingly rebuilt his own. Winter had just begun to loosen its grip when Lily sent Ethan a message that read simply, "Meet me where it all started." He drove to the restaurant, the same one where months ago he'd walked in nervous and hopeful, and accidentally changed the course of his life. As he parked, he glanced down at his hands. The grease stains were still there, faint reminders of who he was, but tonight he felt different, like those stains told a better story now. Inside, the restaurant glowed with golden light. Patrons chatted softly, unaware that something extraordinary was about to happen. Ethan spotted Lily near the same window table. Her hair shimmered beneath the lights, her posture tall and confident. But something else caught his breath. She wasn't in her wheelchair. She stood. It wasn't perfect. Her legs trembled. Her hands gripped the edge of the table for balance, but she was standing, smiling through tears. Ethan froze, unable to speak. "I told you one day I'd drive again," she said with a soft laugh, her voice trembling. "But walking, that was a dream I'd given up on." He stepped closer, eyes shining. "You did this, Lily. You fought for it." She shook her head. "No, Ethan, we did this. You believed in me when I couldn't. You saw me as more than a broken body. You reminded me what it meant to live." The whole room seemed to fade away. There was only her, the woman who'd taught him that compassion could heal more than wounds, and him, the man who'd unknowingly become her miracle. Just then, another figure approached, Mr. Turner, her father. His usual stoic expression had softened. For a long moment he just looked at Ethan, then extended his hand. "You sat at the wrong table that night," Mr. Turner said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "But maybe it was the right one after all." Ethan shook his hand, humbled. "Sir, I just did what anyone decent would do." "No," Mr. Turner replied, smiling faintly. "You did what a good man would do." Lily took a shaky step forward, reaching for Ethan's hand. "Sometimes," she whispered, "the wrong turns lead to the right people." He squeezed her hand gently, his voice breaking. "And sometimes a mistake becomes the best thing that ever happened to you." The restaurant filled with quiet applause as Lily leaned into him, no longer just standing, but standing together. Kindness doesn't need perfection, it just needs courage. Because sometimes one act of compassion can lift two hearts back to their feet.